One of the primary benefits of the GoldTop rebuild kit is ease of installation. Kitmasters took several of the internal components and turned them into a fan clutch assembly. Essentially, when you rebuild your fan clutch with the GoldTop, you really are not rebuilding the fan clutch at all. You're installing a brand new assembled fan clutch into your existing bracket and pulley. In this video, we'll demonstrate how simple it is to install a GoldTop fan clutch rebuild kit. The first thing you need to do when disassembling a DriveMaster fan clutch is to remove the friction plate. This is done using the T55 Torx bit provided in your GoldTop kit. Notice that the plate will say left-hand thread. This often and intuitively signals the installer to reverse the setting on the tool to clockwise to loosen. However, to loosen the center jack bolt, turn the T55 Torx bit counterclockwise, or lefty-loosey, while holding the friction plate from rotating. It will help to apply air pressure to the clutch while removing the friction plate. Even if you set your tool correctly the first time, oftentimes you still can't get the center bolt to budge. In this case, there are a few things to try. First, try applying heat to it. This can oftentimes be just enough to help loosen the bolt. If that doesn't work, you'll have to remove the friction plate another way, by cutting it off. Our favorite way is to cut it off using a 2 3/4 inch hole saw. Simply cut through the friction plate center and you'll be able to remove it. Once the friction plate is removed, discard it. Next, hand tighten the black plastic cage on the left-hand threaded bolt. If you applied air pressure in step 1, remove it now. If you had to cut the friction plate off, you'll not need to cage your fan clutch. Now remove the friction-facing screws with a T27 Torx bit. Then remove the lining and throw it away. Remove the aluminum spring housing. You can use 2 flat screwdrivers to pry the aluminum spring housing from the pulley. Throw the spring housing away. Remove the large black primary seal and throw it away. Now remove the retaining ring and throw it away. Remove the air chamber cap and throw it away. Remove the air cartridge snap ring and throw it away. Remove the air cartridge assembly. You may need to apply air to the fan clutch to force the air cartridge out. Place your hand over the air cartridge to prevent the air cartridge from shooting up under the air pressure and throw it away. Now remove the bearing nut with a 2-inch socket. You can throw away the bearing nut. The pulley will now slide off the shaft. We have removed the old bearings using a press. When removing bearings and spacers in this step, there are 2 important things to remember. Number 1, save any and all spacers found inside the pulley. You will always reuse these spacers. Number 2, be sure to note the current configuration. Some fan clutches have just 1 bearing, some have 2 bearings. Some have 2 bearings with a spacer in between them, and so on. Pay attention to what comes out of the pulley, and then refer to our bearing configuration chart, which is printed on the back of the GoldTop instructions, to determine the correct configuration when rebuilding the fan clutch. To use this chart, simply find the row that shows what you took out of your pulley, and that row will also show you exactly what to put back in. Now, using a solvent, clean the pulley and the shaft. Ensure that there are no deep grooves that would prevent the bearing from working properly. Also, clean and chase the threads on the shaft. Once you've done this, you're ready to begin the installation process. Before pressing in the new bearings, we need to determine the proper configuration using the bearing configuration guide in the instructions or online. Always press bearings in by pressing on the outer race of the bearing. If you need, there's a bearing press tool specifically designed for this job that can be ordered from Kitmasters. Contact your distributor and ask for a GoldTop Press Fit tool, part number 14PF. Regardless of where the spacers were located when you disassembled the old fan clutch, when installing the new pulley bearings, the spacers should always go in between the 2 bearings. As you can see, we've installed the new bearings using a press. Now you'll notice that the standard GoldTop rebuild kit comes with 2 plastic rings called bearing shims. However, you only need to use 1 of them. So if you refer back to the bearing configuration chart, you'll see a column that shows you which bearing shim to use. If you remove 2 bearings during disassembly, use the bearing shim without notches in it. If you removed one double road bearing during disassembly, use the bearing shim with the 4 notches in it. Once you've installed the appropriate bearing shim, then snap the retaining ring into the groove in the pulley. Make sure it sits completely in the groove. This ensures that your bearings are properly seated in the pulley. Next, install the pulley onto the journal bracket shaft. Now, install the bearing nut onto the journal bracket shaft with the shoulder of the nut facing toward the pulley bearing. Torque to 125 foot-pounds. Next, apply lube to the 3 O-rings on the air cartridge assembly and install the new air cartridge assembly in the journal bracket shaft. Then, install the new snap ring over the air cartridge assembly. Now simply place the main GoldTop assembly on the pulley, align the holes, and install the 8 T27 screws. Torque them to 80 inch-pounds. And that's it! You have now completely rebuilt and upgraded your spring-engaged fan clutch with a GoldTop rebuild kit. With all the time you saved, take a break and think about how to spend all your labor savings.